And so let's do some modifications and show you how that we can use these guidelines. Like for example up here, we know that the roof section here is curved. So if it hits right here and it's curved, I can draw a little bit of a curve like that, and I can draw a little bit of a curve like that. It's just kind of a gentle curve, right? I'm looking at this here. Maybe it's a little sharper here at the top, and then it flattens out. And so a little bit sharper here, then it flattens out on the top. And so that's the curve of the roof on that. From there, I can use this guide right here, right? Because I know that that's going to go straight down to, it's got to hit here, right? Like that. And then I can go over to this one here like this, down here, and I got to go to here, and so it's a straight line like this. And even with that small adjustment, remember all of a sudden now we're like, oh, looky, that's now even starting to look a little bit like a Corvette. And then I'm going to leave these guidelines here, but eventually those are going to be erased, right? You don't need the guidelines to create the finished drawing, but now we're starting to see how we've used our guidelines to create our car. Let's do another simple one here. This one right here is not a straight line, it's a curved line. I put a big red mark on it, and so this is just slightly curved a little bit as it comes in, like that. And then this one is also slightly curved as I'm looking here. But since I have my guideline, it's easier to make a slightly curved line right here, and it's about where it needs to be. Now it dissolves into the hood a little bit here, and so we'll worry about that in a little bit on those. Here's another thing. If I'm looking at the bottom of the windshield, it starts, it's another curved line, but it starts about right here. So it's going to start about right here, and it's going to curve up into where that guideline is. And so that's that part curved up. And then this lightly comes over here, and it curves down into about there as well. And so that is the curve, gentle curve for the inside of the windshield right there. That's probably too much. I probably went, I always get exaggerated on that. I get a little excited on curves. Maybe a little flatter right in there. Okay, and it looks like that's come down there. Let's do a one that's a little bit of a challenge with the guideline. That's this part right over here that we're looking at. Now we looked at it, and it curves down to here, and then it flares out a little bit, and then it continues on down here like that. So, and these are above this line here. So this one, as I say, it curved down about like that. Well, how far? Well, let's measure. Let's measure from there to there. Is about that far. And so we can use our measuring device. That happens to be what I did, okay. And so that has a slight curve to it here. Then it goes out at a little bit of an angle. And then it continues, after it goes out that angle, it curves down to the point on this triangle here like that. And it's actually we're gonna have some bumper stuff in here, but it does come into about there. And so I don't really need that as a guideline anymore, so that's the actual side of our Corvette. We used a guideline to show where we can make this simple adjustment to our drawing without having to do crazy stuff to it on that one. This one over here, we don't see as much of the little flare, this little flare part right here. It comes in, it's right here. So let's go ahead and measure that. About like that, right? And so that little flare part starts about right there. And it has a curve on it, so sometimes it's helpful if you just turn your paper. And so this has a curve, right? And it goes down to here. And so I'm trying to mimic this curve here. And then it has a little part that sticks out a little bit. And then it continues down to this point where the bumper intersects, top of the bumper. And this one we don't see as much of. So technically I really don't need that anymore, do I? And so now our Corvette is starting to look more like a Corvette on those. And so that's kind of a cool thing. I've noticed I wanted that down up a little higher. But we're able to do it by the guidelines that we've made with our tools and stuff that we're making on that design. And so we're working pretty good. All right, so what other things would be helpful? Let's go ahead and put in the bumper, the bottom part of the bumper. This was the top of the bumper, right, going across this way. And it's at a slight angle, it looks like. But the thickness of the bumper, I'm going to guess and say that it's about this thick. If I wanted to be exact, I could measure it. But I'm guessing. And so that's probably the thickness of the bumper itself that we have there. And then as it comes out here, it's kind of, how far does that stick out? It sticks out a little bit. It angles down and it angles up, right, like that. And then, so it has a little kind of an injury. That's a little more rounded than that, actually. Let's make that a little bit more rounded. We don't want it that sharp. But it comes out like that. And it does have some thickness right in there. And then on the other side, it sticks out actually past our diagram a little bit. It comes out about to here as it kind of goes up about halfway. And then this piece kind of comes down to meet it here. Has a little bit of a wraparound effect on those. Like that. Now, in looking at our bumper on that, we have, that's probably a pretty good designation on where that is. And so now we have that laid in. Let's go ahead and let's do this part right here, this rounded part that kind of comes down as we're looking out on both sides. And so this starts here. It sticks out, it goes out a little bit past our diagram, and then it's going to kind of round into the bottom here, because this is the bottom of that part. The bottom of the car is about half that distance. And so this is good to know right here. If we took this distance right here and we divided it in half, right here, it's pretty thin, but that's the bottom of the car. Okay, so that piece is going to come in here. This piece is going to come down here like that. That's why I wanted that piece here. So if I'm looking at this one here, and I'm looking at here, the bottom of the car itself is right here. Which means that when this piece comes down, it's just to the inside a little bit here. Then it goes to the outside, but it comes down more or less in this direction here like this. And that's why I wanted to know where the bottom of the car was. And then this one here is just to the inside a little bit like that. And then it comes down and follows that curve. And then I'd be willing to bet it's going to curve right in like that too. And so that's the bottom of the car. Let's use, that's why I needed that line there. And so that's way cool, right? Let's do one other little adjustment here. Is to make it look more like a car, I want to do the tires. Now, here's the thing. When we're looking at the tires in of themselves, it's a curved line, right? Like this. And it goes down to the bottom portion here, and then most of the tire is underneath the fender, and so you don't see that very much, but it does have a curve. And so if I'm showing my perspective here, we're going to have a curve like this, right? And if the whole tire was there, it's probably going to do something like this. And it'd have a curved edge like this, because our perspective, our point of view is right here. So we're looking to the side over like this on that. Or we're right in the middle of the car. So we see this curved edge out here like this. And then if we draw the back side of the tire was in there, we'd probably have some sort of an oval like that, right? And so that is happening right in here. And I just needed that understanding, because now as I use my guide, I'm going to come up like this, and I see that the tire, the rounded part, sticks out a little bit here, and then when it curves down and in a little bit, and I'm looking at this distance. That's too much of an inward curve, and so that's where my tire is going to be. And I'm going to go ahead and draw the bottom of the tire. I don't know how wide it is. I'm going to pretend, I'm going to say that it's this wide. And so I'm guessing up. I'm making it up as I go along here on that part. And so because this is in shadow, I have, this is the outside curve. That I can see. And so the inside curve is going to be the same this way, and then it's going to be reflected on it like that. And so that's kind of the, what are we doing? Oh, look what you're doing, Rich. Okay, there we go. Okay, I got a little ski-wumpus there. I'm going to take out a little bit of this extra. Let's make it a little wider. That looked a little bit too sharp still. Okay, let's do the same thing on the other side. Wee, wee, wee. And so it looks like this curve of the tire is starting right here. So I got my starting point right, and it curves down. And we lose it right here in the shadow. Got cast shadow going on here, so I'm going to have to guess again. And so I'm just going to say that it curves like this. And then for my sake, I'm going to say that this distance, these two distances are the same. Because I wanted to have the tires, if you put the tires on, let's see how far in that goes. Let's measure. Let's measure. So about right there, right? And then this whole part is a reflection. So this curves up and in, this curves back, like that. And so there are my tires. And so that helps it look more like a car if you actually have tires on your car with those. And some of that I guessed at, some of it I measured, some of it I guessed. Okay, so that's a pretty good point to stop my little video there. Hold on.